Let me begin with a simple truth. Life will challenge you. It will push you, test you, and sometimes it will even break your heart. And when that happens, the natural instinct is to stop, to pause, to question whether you're meant to continue. That's human, that's survival. But if you can understand this one thing, that obstacles are not meant to end your story, but to deepen it, your entire life can change. The mind often treats struggle like a stop sign. We encounter failure, rejection, loss, and we assume we've hit the end. But life is not a highway with clear signs. It's a winding, unpredictable path where every setback is also a signal. Not to stop, but to learn. Not to give up, but to look differently. What feels like a closed door may actually be a redirection. Psychologically, we are wired to seek control, to look for predictability. When things go wrong, when plans fall apart, or people disappoint us, our brains perceive it as danger. But here's what many never realize: obstacles are not blocks to your purpose, they reveal it. They strip away illusion, they uncover strength you didn't know you had, and they force you to confront who you really are. Beyond comfort, beyond applause, there is no greatness without resistance. None. You won't meet a single person who's done something meaningful in this world who hasn't faced moments of collapse, moments where it would have been easier to walk away. And yet, those very moments, the broken parts, the uncertain chapters, became the turning points. The moments that shaped who they became. Even in philosophy, we see this truth reflected. The Stoics believed that what stands in the way becomes the way. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way, Marcus Aurelius wrote. This wasn't just metaphor, it was guidance. What you're trying to avoid may be the very thing required to evolve, to rise. Think of a river meeting a rock. It doesn't stop, it doesn't retreat, it flows around it, it adapts, and in doing so, it reshapes the landscape itself. What if we lived like that, flowing through the resistance instead of fearing it? Now, let me ask you something. How many times have you faced a situation that felt like the end, but looking back, it was the beginning of something better? Pain has hindsight. In the moment, it feels meaningless, but with time, it reveals itself as part of your construction, part of your becoming. But here's where the choice lies. When the obstacle shows up, how do you interpret it? Do you see it as a personal failure or as an invitation to grow deeper? That shift in mindset doesn't come easily. It requires practice, awareness. But once you make it, you stop fearing failure and you start using it. Because nothing teaches like a fall. Nothing humbles like a disappointment. Nothing strengthens like recovery. And I say this with complete sincerity. Some of the most powerful people I've met are not the ones who've had the smoothest paths. They're the ones who kept walking despite the storms. They learned to turn their pain into wisdom, their fear into fuel, their obstacles into offerings. It's a quiet kind of strength, the strength to keep going without knowing how the story ends. But that's the kind of strength that transforms lives. So the next time life places a mountain in front of you, don't ask why it's there. Ask what it's trying to teach you. And then, instead of backing down, begin climbing, step by step, breath by breath, knowing that every obstacle is shaping you for something you cannot yet see, but will one day be grateful for. Your path doesn't end when things get hard. That's when your real journey begins. Because difficulty doesn't mean you're on the wrong road. Sometimes it's proof that you're finally walking the right one, so don't stop. Don't shrink. Let the obstacles come, and when they do, rise higher, grow deeper, and keep walking. Not in spite of them, but because of them. We live in a world that praises talent. From a young age, we celebrate those who are fast, gifted, naturally brilliant. And yes, talent is beautiful, it's a gift, but it's not a guarantee. Because life, in its rawest form, does not reward potential, it rewards persistence. The truth is, talent will carry you to the starting line, but it's grit that gets you across the finish. Psychologist Angela Duckworth, in her research on high achievers across professions, found that success was not strongly correlated with intelligence, um, social ability, or raw skill. The greatest predictor, that ability to persevere through challenges, to sustain effort over time, to stay committed long after the excitement fades. In other words, the people who succeed aren't always the ones who shine the brightest at first. They're the ones who refuse to stop shining even when no one is watching. And, and this is where many of us get it wrong. We believe that if we struggle, we must not be cut out for it. That if we feel fear or frustration, we're somehow not built for the dream we're chasing. But that's not true. That's just the mind reacting to difficulty, and difficulty doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're growing. When you rely only on talent, you hit a ceiling. When you cultivate grit, there is no ceiling. Because grit doesn't care about ease, it thrives in resistance. It chooses to stay in the race, even when the legs are tired, even when the applause has stopped. It's not glamorous, it's not always visible, but it's powerful. We often underestimate how much of success is built quietly, in the early mornings, in the late nights, in the decisions that no one sees, the moments you show up when you don't feel like it, the days you give your best, even when your best doesn't look like everyone else's. Those aren't insignificant. They're sacred. They are the very moments that separate those who are casually interested from those who are deeply committed. And commitment, not talent, is what changes things. Even in ancient philosophy, we see this echoed. The Stoics believed that virtue lies in what we choose, not what we are given. Epictetus, born a slave, became one of the greatest minds in history, not because of what he had, but because of how he chose to respond to what he didn't have. That is grit. That is power. The world doesn't need more perfection. It needs more people who keep showing up even when it's hard, who keep learning, adapting, failing forward. Because you can't out-talent someone who never gives up. You can't defeat a mind that has made peace with discomfort. So often, we disqualify ourselves too soon. We compare our behind the scenes with someone else's highlight reel. We think they make it look so easy. But ease is not the measure of worth. What if your journey is not harder because you're weaker, but because you're being stretched into something greater? This is the inner battle, the quiet war between doubt and discipline, between fear and faith. And this is where the transformation happens, not in the outcome, but in the choice to keep going. You don't have to be extraordinary to begin. You just have to be unwilling to give up. Because the moment you decide, no matter what, I will continue, something shifts. You take back your power from circumstances, from comparison, from fear. And that choice, that relentless return to your path, creates a momentum that even talent alone cannot match. Let me be clear. It's okay to feel discouraged. It's okay to feel behind. But don't confuse delay with defeat. You are still in the process of becoming. And sometimes the people who look like they're ahead are simply better at hiding their own battles. So let go of the need to prove anything to anyone. Your strength is not in being better than others. It's in being braver than your excuses. And if all you can do today is take one step, then take it. That's how unstoppable is built, not all at once, but step by step, day by day, choice by choice. Talent opens the door, grit walks through it, and it keeps walking long after everyone else has sat down. You see, we're often told that pain is something to avoid, that discomfort is a warning sign, that when things hurt, when life pushes us to the edge, it's a sign to back off, to slow down, maybe even stop altogether. But I want to offer you something different, a shift in perspective. What if pain isn't a punishment, but a passage? Psychologically speaking, our minds are designed to avoid suffering. The brain's primary function is survival. It seeks pleasure, safety, and familiarity. That's why when we are pushed into uncertainty or hardship, the internal alarm bells go off. We interpret resistance as a red flag. But growth doesn't live in comfort. Growth resides precisely in those places where we'd rather not go. It lives in the moments when our strength is tested and we're not sure we have any left. The human spirit does not expand in stillness, it expands in struggle. Philosophers like Nietzsche and Viktor Frankl understood this well. Nietzsche once said, "To live is to suffer, to survive is to find some meaning in the suffering." And Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, wrote that those who found meaning in their pain were the ones who endured it. What does this tell us? That pain is not the enemy, meaningless pain is. When you connect your struggle to something larger than the pain itself, a purpose, a belief, a future, you transform it from something that breaks you into something that builds you. Let me put it plainly. The thing that feels like it's tearing you apart might be the very thing assembling the strongest version of you. There's a moment in every difficult journey where you'll feel like stopping. It's that place where the mind tells you, this is too much, you've done enough. It's okay to let go. But what if I told you that this exact point, when everything feels like it's falling apart, is also the point right before a breakthrough? That your pain, rather than being a wall, is actually a threshold? Breakthroughs don't announce themselves politely. They don't come with warning signs or glowing neon lights that say, just one more step and you're there. They come disguised as heartbreak, as failure, as loneliness, as exhaustion, but you only realize their purpose in hindsight. And hindsight is earned by staying in the fire long enough to make it out the other side. Think of a seed in the soil. To grow, it must break open. That breaking isn't failure. It's transformation. Without that rupture, the roots never take hold. Without pressure, without darkness, there's no bloom. So many people give up at Beifingerchosher, not because they lack potential, but because they mistake pain for a sign of unworthiness. But if you understand that pain is part of the process, that suffering is not a disqualification, but a requirement of growth, you stop fearing it. You begin to embrace it, not masochistically, but maturely, with the understanding that every great becoming comes at a cost. The world often sees success and assumes ease, but anyone who has become something will tell you the truth that before the chapter of victory comes the chapter of resistance, that the days they wanted to quit were the days that refined them. That discipline didn't grow when they were confident, but when they were unsure and still chose to move forward. Being unstoppable doesn't mean you're never tired. It means you keep walking, even when your legs shake. It means you cry, then get up anyway. It means you let the pain visit, but you never let it make decisions for you. You are not defined by the ease of your journey. You are defined by how you rise in moments of doubt, by how you persist when the reward is not guaranteed. That is the true test of resilience. That is the psychology of the unstoppable. So if you're in that place right now, on the verge, on the edge, in the in-between, I want you to hear this art loud. You are closer than you think. Let pain be your compass, not your cage. Let it guide you through the storm, not hold you inside it. Because your breakthrough isn't out of reach. It's waiting just beyond the place where most people give up. to, and that's exactly why you won't. Would you like the other sections of the speech styled in the same way? Every one of us is writing a story, whether we realize it or not. With every choice we make, every time we decide to rise instead of retreat, to speak instead of stay silent, to keep going instead of give up, we're leaving behind something that will outlive us, a legacy. Now, legacy is a word we often reserve for the famous, the powerful, the people we read about in books or watch on screens. But I want to challenge that idea because legacy is not about grand gestures or global recognition. It's about impact. It's about how your presence changes a room, how your courage gives someone else permission to be brave. Your legacy begins with how you show up, not just when it's easy, but when it's difficult. One, especially when it's difficult, the philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre spoke of existence preceding essence. In other words, we are not born with meaning, we create it through our actions, through our decisions. You don't inherit your worth, you build it. Every time you choose integrity over comfort, every time you lean into the struggle instead of running from it, you are not only shaping your future, you're building the very core of who you are. So when I say write your legacy with every choice, I don't mean perfect decisions, I mean conscious decisions. I mean waking up and asking yourself, what kind of life do I want to look back on? What kind of story do I want others to tell when they speak my name? So it's easy to let the world dictate your story, to wait for permission, to follow trends, to meet expectations set by others. But when you live like that, you give your pen to someone else. And the problem is, they will never write your story with the truth and fire that only you can bring. Psychologically, this is called self-authorship, the process of moving from external definitions of success to internal clarity. People who are self-authors don't need applause to feel valid. They don't need to win to feel worthy. They move with conviction because they know who they are. Or more importantly, they know who they're becoming. And it's important to say this, your legacy doesn't begin when you arrive. It begins now. In the small, quiet moments, the ones nobody sees, when you choose to forgive, when you choose to stay, when you get back up when nobody expected you to. Those decisions may seem insignificant in the moment, but they are the bricks of your becoming. Even in your failures, even in your silence, you are teaching people something. Every act of persistence tells the world this is what strength looks like. Every time you show up after breaking down, you tell someone else this is what healing looks like. And every time you refuse to quit, you send a message that echoes far beyond your own life. Unstoppable looks like. Legacy is not reserved for those who win the race, but for those who never stop running their own. Think of the people who've inspired you the most. Were they perfect? Probably not, but they were real. They were raw, they kept showing up, and because of that, their story now lives inside you. That's legacy. You have that same power to be the reason someone else holds on, to be the evidence that even in darkness, light can be chosen. And the beautiful paradox is this, the more you live for something beyond yourself, the more grounded you become in yourself. Purpose gives pain context. Legacy gives effort meaning. And in a world that constantly changes, meaning is the one thing that anchors us. So the question is not, will I leave a legacy? You already are. The real question is, what kind of legacy will it be? Every act of perseverance, every moment you refuse to let pain silence your voice, adds another sentence to your story. And that story is being written not someday, but right now. So choose wisely, live boldly, and write a story that's worth remembering, not because it was perfect, but because it was true. Would you like me to help integrate all 4 expanded points into a full-length speech draft? Next.